Welcome to Fargo Talks Fargo, a podcast on the FX television series Fargo. I'm Bill, and I'm back with my buddy Sharpie. We're in Season 5, and if you don't know us and you've skipped the Hot Dish double episode, right, Sharpie?
That's right.
That was a mouthful, I bet, wasn't it, for him?
It's fitting, because it's Thanksgiving and we had 2 hot dishes.
Yeah, I'm a little salty with FX for doing this to us, because it honestly is creating a little bit of a, if we could complain about our things.
You're talking about a doubleheader over a holiday weekend?
Doubleheader over a holiday weekend. We're both excited about this show, but it's hard to find time to double watch a show, record episodes, do stuff. You traveled I'm still living in Fargo.
Yep.
You live in Colorado.
That's right.
In the Denver area, and you traveled to Texas.
Yes, I was in Houston yesterday. Now I'm back in Denver. Yeah, watching, because people don't realize that we do the 2 shows, right? We do the hot dish and then we do our longer takes, our more deep dives. But that means we do have to watch the show a couple of times. So that's at least 4 hours of watching to get this together.
Plus, I had to eat. I had to go to my in-laws. I had to travel over there. I had to eat. I had to come home. I had to take a freaking 90-minute nap that I said was going to be 20 minutes.
And you can't just travel in Fargo universe time. You can't just go to, Bismarck to Bemidji in an hour. I'm just going to run from fake Scandia all the way over to somewhere near Stark County, Beulah, which is, boy, that's probably 6 hours. Okay, we're not here to ruin your willing suspension of disbelief. We're just 2 guys who don't get paid to do any of this. We have no sponsorships. We just do this out of pure... For the love of the game.
Love of the game. So, Season 5, Episode 1, The Tragedy of Commons, which, as I mentioned in the hot dish, and hopefully I don't say anything, a lot of people may not know, we got a little overzealous in the hot dish. I actually cut a bunch of stuff out of the hot dish. So
not the butter, not the cheese, not the heavy cream, and not the cream of mushroom soup. Just the conspiracy theories.
All sorts of those. So Tragedy Commons, Sharpie, where do you want to take us from this opening at the school? And I'm sure some people are going to be, like, ugh, relevant to today's political worlds. But you know what?
Yeah.
All this shit's relevant. But where do you want to take us? Where do you want to take us first?
Stuff is going to get political because that's just kind of the nature of this show. It's not like we're wedging it in there. There's just a lot of political commentary going on in this show. If you don't like it, you're probably not watching the show. And if you're watching the show, then you're putting it up with it somehow or another. Let's start out with the Fall Festival Planning Committee. Because that's where we open up.
Nice catch. I saw that. I wrote that in my notes too. What were they planning?
Yeah, I don't know what the Fall Festival Planning Committee is, but clearly there's they're in the school theater, right, at the Scandia Middle School, I believe it is, and the school's all decorated for the play of that year, which is...
You caught that?
Yes.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Before Christmas, which I actually didn't catch the first time through. I knew that there were a couple Nightmare Before Christmas references, but not as many as I thought when I rewatched. Obviously, the music that comes later, that was a big one. So it's like, oh, cool, Nightmare Before Christmas. But right off the bat, first scene of Season 5, we're at the Fall Festival Planning Committee in the school, and there's that big swirly hill shape that's from the cover of the Nightmare Before Christmas poster. And I saw that right away, and I was like, oh my god, how did I not put that together? I didn't see that. I was like, there's clearly a Nightmare Before Christmas theme going on. And then it's just like blatantly obvious. It's just like plastered on the posters outside of the school. But I was like, oh, that's that cool little hill that Jack Skellington is on the cover of the movie art. And then you see like a little swirl also with a moon hanging below it, behind the podium. And I was like, oh, that's just like it. It's definitely a reference. And then when you back out and you see even more of that, it's actually Jack Skellington in front of the moon, or some similar figure in front of that moon, as you can see more of it. So at first I thought they were being kind of sneaky, but I guess they were just being like blatantly obvious. And it appears that Nightmare Before Christmas is going to possibly be some sort of theme that interweaves itself throughout the season. Don't know yet, but it's definitely heavy on this episode.
I feel like generally, if I'm misremembering, please call me out. But most of the other episodes kind of had early on the first words on the page were about the whole this is a true story, and the word true either comes and goes. This season opened with Minnesota Nice.
Oh yeah,
which is
how do we?
Which is this says one, as if there's more than one definition. An aggressively pleasant demeanor, often forced, in which a person is chipper. Which, by the way, solid use of the word chipper there, for real, chipper. A person is chipper and self-effacing no matter how bad things get. Is that how you would define Minnesota Nice? Because I've found it hard to describe to people.
It is hard to describe, and I think there's going to be a debate over the definition of it. But what was in the thing? Overly aggressive or something like that?
It says an aggressively pleasant demeanor that is often forced, in which a person is chipper and self-effacing no matter how bad things get.
Aggressive and often forced, I think, are great words for it, because I particularly think the whole Minnesota Nice thing, even if you're on the North Dakota side, there's definitely the more you get familiar with it, the more sort of passive aggressive it kind of seems, and often kind of fake, to be honest.
No, I'm with you. It is. I mean, I will say people are generally nice here in a real way, but it's just sometimes if you don't know the subtleties of it, it's hard to tell the difference. So I just thought it was interesting. We can kind of visit that about it, but I just thought there's got to be a reason that they open with that, just to let us know more. Can I pitch to you real quick just a little bit of the I've Seen All the Good People Yes opening song, can I spit some lyrics at you quick?
Yeah, let's get into it.
So during this whole fight scene, and we've teased people a little bit with the double episode 1 and 2, and what I thought was really interesting is the lyrics to this song are I've seen all the good people turn their heads each day, so satisfied I'm on my way. Take the straight and stronger course to the corner of your life. Make the White Queen run so fast, she hasn't got time to make you a wife. Because it's time, in time with your time, and its news is captured for the Queen to use. I just thought very interesting that we're opening with this this woman, this seemingly, who we don't know a lot about yet, this housewife. I know that they work very diligently because of our past interviews, but there's mention of a queen, and we eventually know, because we talked about there's the debt queen, and there's a wife, there's a queen. Take a straight and strong course to the corner of your life. I just thought very interesting and great use of the music in the middle of this, and they pan away from, or they fade out the music, and Dot basically tells Scotty, like, if anyone tries to stop us, bite him on the ankle. There was a total like freedom. Go back and listen. A couple people are screaming freedom.
Yeah.
But I just thought that they come back, that they sort of move away from the song, because the song's very edited a little, but they come right back to I've seen all the good people turn their heads each day, so satisfied. Pretty interesting. Good opening. Great job. Can't wait to hopefully talk to Maggie Phillips if she could make time for us.
You know what I was thinking we should do this year? We should make a shared playlist of the soundtrack of Fargo.
That'd be fun.
And every week we can update it and let the listeners follow along.
God, then you know what? It's America. Now we'll get into a fight over whether that should be on Spotify, Apple Music, or YouTube Music.
No, I think we'll do Spotify and Apple Music. That should be easy enough.
We've been told very clearly that this is a turning on its head of the original Fargo thing, but interesting to watch, this whole cop rear view shot scene that's very reminiscent of Marge, having her conversation, and but we get
definitely a nod. What's the world coming to is all I'm saying.
Yeah, all that for a little bit. Yeah, what's the world coming to? Wasn't it something about neighbor against neighbor?
Yep.
also just, like, well, maybe you should have thought of that, of mom being carted away in handcuffs. But I thought it is kind of interesting, the ridiculousness of some of the things going on. But I thought the "don't come at a mama" line when she's got her cub, because we have mentioned that there's this tigery theme that's going to happen. But I thought that was a really nice kickoff to the episode. Sets the pace and tone for us for Dot, like I had mentioned, is not to be trifled with, but also the fact that even their conversation in polite Minnesota, Indira is immediately like, yeah, well, don't tase people.
Yeah.
I
liked how she wrapped it up. She said something. Indira, is that how we're saying your name? Indira,
we should. Indira. Well, Deputy Olmsted. How about that?
Deputy Olmsted.
We'll try to pay more attention. Yeah.
Deputy Olmsted, she wraps it up with, well, you know what they call a herd of lions? A pride.
A pride.
So think about that. A pride. That's a deadly sin.
Yes.
So could be another. We know that biblical references are throughout this entire universe, and often leaned on. I don't know if that will be one, but she did say. So think about that.
Yeah. Other things that I still, because we really, you and I do love to make our connections, right, to previous seasons. I was really happy to see her booking photo was nice. I mean, even the placement of her hand and how she held it was pretty damn close shot for shot to Raising Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Always super fun. And I think that's the details. And I think that's the reason you and I have such a hard time with this sometimes, is that we get so caught up in the background and the foreground because there's so much going on. But very early, though, this set of things sets the tone for all sorts of stuff. Like, she's clearly worried about the national database and her fingerprints. I mean, when you heard that, were you just immediately like, oh, what'd you do? What have you done? Or what are you hiding?
Of course. I mean, she's she's so nervous, obviously, biting her fingernails. She knows that her name's going to pop up somewhere on a computer, and somebody is going to catch that. And who would that somebody be? Well, it would most likely be somebody in law enforcement.
Yes. But until they decide to tell us who that is, we get to see her husband, who's Wayne, who is a little bit of within about a minute and a half, we realize he's kind of mom's in charge, because regardless of the fact that she's just been arrested and is being bailed out of jail, he's dressed up and she's like, what? Whoa. And he's like, oh, it's family picture day. Don't worry. I brought your makeup bag and your frock, which, okay, sorry. I didn't even look that up. Really? A frock? What up with that?
Enlighten me. What is a frock?
Wikipedia, just looked it up now.
Should I know?
Is a frock as a dress worn by a woman. In contemporary times, frock may still designate a woman's or girl's or child's dress or light overdress. I don't know.
Leave it to us. Couple of dudes with no kids.
No kids to not know what a frock is.
We have no idea what we're talking about. That's going to be a theme throughout this show, by the way.
I'm hoping you have an answer to what you brought up, because I got none, but I could not stop when we finally get to Lorraine Lyon's house.
The painting?
Did you find it? Please tell me you found something out about the painting.
Dude.
Shocker, we don't plan this conversation. We like to have these conversations as they happen.
Yeah.
Did you find anything?
I found absolutely nothing.
God dang it.
I spent a good 30 minutes on this. Maybe I'm a terrible Googler. I'm sure somebody's going to come up with something at some point throughout the season. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about the house, or the painting in the house.
Yes.
In the Lyons house, right in the entryway, there are two men. One appears to be a priest of some sort, or a member of the church of some stature, and they're both riding on the back of another man, and they're seemingly having a great time, and they're running away from a house.
Yeah, the one man. When you say he's a priest, he's wearing a coat, and he sort of looks like he's yelling at the guy behind him, but he has a cross around his neck on a very large red ribbon.
That's the only reason why I say that.
Yeah. They're riding on the shoulders of another man. It's a weird game of chicken, or what did we call that when we were young?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
As long as you're in a pool.
Yeah, well, they're not. They're in front of some sort of farmhouse wearing some very colonial Williamsburg dress. And then the security guard walks up and just stops in front of it, which, of course, if they hadn't shot it that way, I would have been like, why would I notice this?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. I'll just skip ahead real quick, and we'll come back to it, obviously.
Okay.
But the gas station towards the end of the episode, it's called Revere. So I don't know if this painting is like some sort of weird Paul Revere reference, where he's riding on the back of another man, telling people how the British are coming. Is that how it went?
Well, I mean, the minute you're saying this now, this sort of ties me back to this whole conversation I brought up about the tragedy of commons, about these overlapping themes, especially in the TV series Fargo, of like, you know, I'm not going to go down not yet, maybe the Wizard of Oz business of what does the Tin Man stand for, but just in general, it's the debt queen holding the debts of other people. And I really want to hear a little bit more about your astute observations about everybody. Multiple people seem to think Dot owes them a debt, but yeah, you've definitely got me wondering. I was like, is this about the history of our country and the weight that we carry on things? Maybe I'm trying too hard here. I don't know.
Since you brought it up, the title of the episode is The Tragedy of the Commons. Do you want to just get into that right now?
We can do it wherever you want. Eventually I just want to make sure we talk about how great they look with those guns and the fact that they have a lot of Borzoi dogs.
Yeah, I'm not a dog person. I don't know dog types. I was going to ask you what those types of dogs are.
I originally thought it was an Afghan, and then I realized they didn't have long enough hair, and I realized it's a Borzoi, which are they're Russian dogs.
Okay.
Pravda na Pravda, season 3, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, talk to me about the tragedy of commons a little bit.
Well, I was hoping you would enlighten us on the tragedy of commons.
Dang. Just tennis ping-ponging it, huh? I mean, the bottom line of what I got from that was just that there's just this unchecked amount of like, there's only so much of everything: money, time, space, wealth, things that are, and eventually we humans kind of sort of ruin it. That's why I think this concept, and I did not read this super deep, but so I'm not going to pretend I'm a master at it, but I mean, it's like, that's why it goes from everything from economy to ecology. It's like overgrazing, overeating, over everything. And you keep going because you feel like you have the privilege to it. But eventually you're like, oh, wow, I've really messed things up, because there isn't there's a limit, right? That's the tragedy of the commons, is that it's a, like even Wikipedia would call it, I think there's a part where they talk about it, that it's considered it's used a lot in relation to environmental issues and sustainability, resources, water, wood, all of these things. But I think that's what we're starting to look at, is like, what is it that everybody wants in this, right? This episode. And it's that people are upset, and we're reaching a boiling point at the school meeting or wherever it is. People are they're upset. Why? We're reaching a limit of like certain points of humankind. Maybe I'm not talking like end of days here. I'm just talking about, you can't get on a Delta flight without somebody freaking out. Different topic, but yeah, that's the tragedy of commons. And we're here at this house, which I don't know.
Well, I'm glad you were saying that, because I think that theme is carried out throughout this house as you look all around it.
Yeah, it's excess everywhere, right? There's paintings like, snap your fingers, everybody gets a gun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like, make a choice, the drink or the gun. That was kind of funny, that part where he couldn't, what's his name? Wink, I think is his name.
Wink,
couldn't figure out if he should put down the drink. But gun thing, she said, it's about strength as a family. And I was like, whew.
Is it strength or is it weakness? That photo clearly, well, I don't know clearly, but it seemed like a callback to that Kentucky congressman, Massey, I think his name was. Remember a few years ago, a congressman in Kentucky took a photo almost exactly like that. There were windows,
really?
There was a tree, the whole family sitting in 2 layers,
right.
And they are all holding guns as just, to own the libs. And they sure did, didn't they? So that was, that's just kind of like saying where they are maybe politically. I thought it was, speaking of tragedy of the commons and just like America deteriorating, I thought that was kind of a theme in here. Because did you see that painting behind the three men? You've got Wink, you've got Danish, and then between them, who was that? Like the Attorney General or something like that?
At dinner. Well, yeah, like that was the other thing is like we got a Christmas photo and now we've got the Attorney General just popped by for Din
yeah,
Din.
So if you look behind them, behind the dinner table, behind them, there's 3 American flags. And the first American flag is like intact. The middle one's kind of falling apart. The third one is like in rags.
Deteriorating.
And it's kind of in the order of the characters. So Wink is obviously like, he feels like along for the ride. Like his wife is calling all the shots. He's just playing ball kind of. Not necessarily a strong character, not necessarily a force, just kind of like he's just kind of there. He makes do, and the flag behind him is like, in fine condition. Then behind the Attorney General, it's starting to get a little bit more deteriorated, and then behind Danish, who's clearly, the
one-eyed lawyer weirdo.
Yeah. He's definitely in the business of, organized crime to some degree, whatever this dead business is. And that flag is just in shreds. So I feel like those are like little symbols of like how maybe crooked each of those characters are.
I'm laughing at you bringing it up because I had it posted as one of my notes of like, don't go down this road, Bill. Nobody wants to hear your weird things. And
what's that?
Well, my comment was that the flag, the farther right you go, the more deteriorated the flag is. But I'm not honestly. I really am not trying to say that there can't be. I like your look better. I really like the character references much more. I think it's a much more interesting like observation. But I did notice that. I just thought I'm not going to bring it up. But since you did.
So maybe we'll see the AG kind of that is what he is, right?
Well, he does say that our nation is under siege in that spot.
I think we'll kind of see him. Maybe we'll see him like playing both sides a little bit in still a crooked way.
Sure. Yeah.
So Danish Graves, I think this is interesting though because what a character, what a name, the silver hair, and then the silver like white eye patch. We're starting to see pirates being a theme throughout this episode as well because later in the episode, Dot is reading to Scotty a children's book about pirates. They mentioned something about scurvy swags or something like that.
That's true.
And Danish has an eye patch, which we commonly associate with pirates for some reason. I don't know if there is any truth to that.
Where do you think this pirate theme's going?
It's too early to tell. I think we're laying the foundation a bit. There's a lot to go off of here. We've got you were mentioning the dogs. Dogs came up a couple times in this episode as well, in very backgroundy ways. But when Dot was when the 2 kidnappers were coming over to Dot's house, she was watching a morning program. And on that morning program, a guest was a dog and a dog psychologist.
What? Was that really what it was?
Yeah.
Well, glad you saw it. I didn't catch it.
So we'll kind of keep an eye on that and see if maybe some dogs are some themes. But let's take it back. Let's get back to the lion's house. There's all kinds of craziness going on. She's got henchmen. She's got statues of lions kind of throughout. It's obviously a big, beautiful place. We learned that Wayne can't even tie a tie, or he can tie a tie, but he does it backwards.
Yes,
because he's thinking about probably the only way he's ever tied a tie on himself. So we just kind of we kind of learn how incapable Wayne is, and very much in like a Jerry Lundegaard kind of way.
Yeah.
He's just aloof a little bit.
And he's dependent on somebody else, the same way that Jerry was dependent on his father-in-law, though, right? That's the turn, is that instead of it being his father, it's her, you know what I mean? Like in the other, the dad, you going to stay for supper. Instead, it's the full connection, and the power is owned by the car salesman's mother. We could probably go down a pretty heavy path of like what we loved about the whole scene of the kidnapping. Is there anything from that you kind of want to cover right now, or do you want to move ahead?
Well, there's a couple things I want to talk about in the Lion's House.
Okay.
Before we get there.
Hit me.
One was that Dot had made a point to Lorraine Lyon that she wanted to get more thrillers and stuff in the school curriculum, like in the library, like thrillers and true crime stuff, or not true crime, but that kind of stuff. And then she specifically calls out Lee Child, which I thought was interesting. Lee Child, mostly known for the Jack Reacher series.
Oh, really?
Which is fairly new. I think they're 2 seasons in or something. I believe that's on Amazon Prime. But so that's something I thought was kind of interesting.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. But I thought it was interesting that she mentioned Lee Child, and I'm kind of curious as to what her fascination with Jack Reacher is, because I assume that's what it is. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then as we are leaving that scene, you really have to kind of like crank up the volume to hear this, because I don't even think it's mentioned in the subtitles, which is a great way to, make sure you catch everything. Wink says, Rommel wasn't a tall man. And then he goes off he starts telling a story, which I assume is about Erwin Rommel, a Nazi German general. And then it fades away into the next scene.
Yeah, that's that tie you and I've said that sometimes when we rewatch, we actually turn on closed captioning so we can really dial into some of the dialogue. I didn't catch that. So
as we leave that scene, Wink is clearly spinning up a story about this German Nazi general, Erwin Rommel. He was very famous. He's known as the Desert Fox. He's a tank commander. World War I and World War II, fought in North Africa, I think, in World War II. But what kind of followed him around is what's called the Rommel myth. He was the story goes that he's very much respected on both sides, that he was apolitical, not necessarily supporting of Hitler, not necessarily against Hitler or the Nazis in general, very much spoke about, leaving hate outside of war and all this kind of stuff, and how, this is he's just doing a job and he's doing it well and with respect for both sides, kind of thing. But that's the myth. That's what people tried to build up this, build up his reputation as, when the reality is quite different. He was a war criminal. He was, in fact, deeply seated with Hitler. Yeah. He ended up committing suicide because there was a rumor that he was plotting against Hitler, and then committed suicide, I think, 1944. So the myth is that we've sort of people have sort of painted him as this saint, like this apolitical guy, when the fact was, nope, he was just kind of a crappy Nazi, maybe a good general in the sense of he was good at, war and killing people and being a Nazi. But he was no angel. He was no saint. Just because he died and just because he was a good commander didn't make him a respectable person. So that's the Rommel myth. And that's just assuming Wink was talking about him. But I thought it was interesting because it kind of plays into these types of characters that these family are. They're they're clearly very far right. They're very much we're at war. There's a civil war coming, and these groups tend to fantasize about fascism and about Nazis and about Nazi Germany and about how strong the Germans were. And my guess is that this is just kind of a continuation of that theme. And Wink was about to go off into saying probably some story about how he admires Erwin Rommel. Now that's just speculation. We'll never know. No. But it was interesting that they included it right as that scene was tailing off. Yeah, because that gives you a little peek. Coming off an incredibly awkward dinner. Yeah. Moments after you've been bailed out of jail or whatever she called her little criminal or whatever. But yeah. Because throughout that scene, you had no reason to dislike Wink. He was clearly not so into the gun photo. He was just kind of minding his own business. He didn't want politics at the dinner table. And then right at the end there, it's nope, he's talking about Nazis. Oh, God.
Yeah. And that leads us out of that scene into the whole, do you want to take a tumble scene?
Oh, yeah.
And we kind of covered that. But, me, I love to dissect the backgrounds. I noticed that she had a black swan figurine on her nightstand next to a picture. And I just thought, what a possibility, a black swan, something you think what's going to be expected, and then you get this rarity and weird impact through things, like a black swan event, or black swan theory. But I know that's small, but it's like when we look back, you're like, I'm already thinking of like, well, yeah, where have you been, Dot? And of course this is going to happen to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is happening? The other thing I caught, and I sent you a couple screenshots just because I wanted you to know exactly what I was seeing, was Dot has these first flashbacks of Roy and what riding alone on his horse. They're at a table praying, of course. I don't know who the old men are. Gator is seated to his Roy's right hand, and on the left is what is obviously to be his newer wife. And did you notice the two girls at the table are twins and they're dressed identical, like just throwing full-blown creepy Shining vibes for me. They just don't have big wheels to ride around a giant Overlook hotel. But the part I couldn't stop being like, what the hell about is if you look, they've got orange juice in front of them and they have hot dogs on their plate and no one else has any food on their plate yet. But but there's that next flash I told you is not even a full second long. No joke. If you're watching this, I will try to find a way. We're working with putting podcast chapters in some places, but we have a flash and it is in a building of some sort and it's in darkness. And this is the photo I sent you, Sharpie.
Yep.
It is the skeleton. But if you look at it close, dude, Skellington's in a mask and there is somebody with a full uniform on. But if you look, it's a sheriff. It says somebody. And then two other characters in masks. So I'm kind of curious if this will come back as is she seeing the future or are they trying to tell us something? And then it cuts back to him.
All of these masks, by the way, are from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't say that. And then we cut back to John Hamm and then you cut back again to this darkness and Ole Munch too in this scene, but they're all carrying axes. So I don't know. I just wanted to point that out. And then, sorry, I was out of order a moment ago and I apologize. But then all the kidnapping happens. But I don't want us to, I just feel like that's the easy thing to get caught in when really based on what they're showing us through the lens of editing is the scene when he comes home. I brought this up to you, and I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm just going to say it now so we can talk about it later. Like when the door is open to the house and the blood is on the ground, there's like a cut, and you see that there's a drum set. But there's also a lot of... Do you notice how many stuffed animals are like crammed all over the house?
Yeah, totally.
You'll notice throughout this whole episode and the next episode that we can talk about, there's horses quite a bit, which is Roy, and there's a tiger on the floor a tiger one on the floor by the drum set as well.
Yep.
That's wrapped kind of more in like a pink bunny or something. But was there anything like weird you caught from the whole first time Deputy Olmsted shows up at the house?
Yeah. So I think we're going to get into that drum set, and I think you've got some pretty interesting points on that. But
that'll come in a few more seconds here. But
there's definitely some interesting things in that house. Obviously, the Olmsteds are deep into debt. So that's a common theme. Everybody owes everybody something in this show. But if you see behind her left shoulder is a framed print of a tiger.
Yeah.
So
nice
we've got
catch.
two tigers kind of we're working with here. We got Dot, lots of tiger symbology, and then we've got Deputy Olmsted with a tiger behind her. So two tiger symbols for two strong women. Strong women, obviously, a very prominent theme in the Fargo universe. So I think we're going to be seeing more of that symbolism as well with Deputy Olmsted.
What do you make of her? We eventually are hearing this like crack and whacking noise. Got any hot takes on good old Lars Olmsted?
Well, he's a big Imagine Dragons fan. I know that.
Huge.
As much as you can be in the 2 years they've been out since then. I don't know when their first single came out. So Imagine Dragons fan, also obviously a golf fan. He's in the simulator. He's got a simulator that they probably couldn't afford, and lots of pictures of golfers pinned up in the garage as well.
Still one hockey stick on the wall.
One hockey stick.
Lebowski, clearly you're not a golfer. Right?
So that's right. So between the photos of his golf idols and the Imagine Dragons posters and the hockey stick, those all frame what, Bill?
A drum set. I'm curious why two characters in scenes that are only 5 minutes apart are framed with drum sets, and the name of his band is also Bad Liar. Or that's what's written on the head of the bass drum, which is where you put your band name usually.
So Lars, the Bad Liar.
Mm-hmm.
We might find something out there. And I mean, we mentioned it in the hot dish, I think maybe briefly, but lions, liars. So the Lions family just might be a bunch of liars. We got Lars of the Bad Liars band, so a theme going on there. What could Lars possibly be lying about, Bill?
I mean, this is a super stretch. I got nerded out after this about Olmsted from the fact that I have a lot of friends in the Rochester, Minnesota area, which is in Olmsted County. In looking for it, something with Fargo, I found out that, when is it Mike Yamagata or Yanagata? Mike Yanagita, thank you, calls Marge Gunderson in the original film. He says, Margie Olmsted? And she says, it's Marge Gunderson now. And that's when they get together. So I am kind of interested in the idea that is it just a light throwback, just a super light throwback to the Olmsted last name? Is there some just super creepy, weird thing that's going to happen where we're going to find out that seemingly shitty Lars so far is actually a product of Marge Gunderson?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because she was pregnant.
She was pregnant.
And that would have been 1996, which would...
Well, no, that's when the movie came out. It was 1980. Remember, it was like 86 or 87 in the movie.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, puts it in the framework, and for whatever it's worth, I just don't feel like Lars is a throwaway character either, because, I mean, I think he's going to die with his golf clubs. By the way, I can kind of feel a hit to the head with a golf club coming. I don't know. Maybe they're going to kill him in the third episode. I don't know. Who dead next, right?
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, but if he is somehow related to Marge, if he happened to be Marge's son, it's possible. He'd be in his
stretch of stretches, to be honest.
I mean, his last name would be different. He'd have to take her maiden name, or maybe she had a kid before that one that she's pregnant with in the movie. But if she was pregnant with him during the movie, then that puts him early 30s. So the math works out technically. I'm
just doing the whole like, what's up with the drum set, or maybe they've got the beat. They're like the Go-Go's.
Well, you got to tie the drum set in with Scotty, right? Because there's a drum set in the Lion's house.
In
Wayne's house. So Scotty's got a drum set. Lars has a drum set. They're both almost the same color even.
And there was the comment by Lorraine about, and I don't remember what it is, I don't have the note on it, about some low-rent gal that her son knocked up. And I just thought, well, what if Wayne is he's just a man who doesn't want to be pushed around by his mother, and maybe found a nice lady who was escaping whatever it is she was escaping from Roy. And I don't know, what if Dot was knocked up before Wayne? And what if I'm not skipping ahead, so just hold that thought to the next episode. But like, what if Wayne just wanted to be with Dot enough that he didn't care that she was pregnant? And in the Midwest, in general, like nobody wants to be pregnant and have to explain it to somebody, so that he just fell on the sword and wanted to be with her enough that he just said, it's my kid. Maybe it is his kid. Maybe it's not. Like I said, this is a massive stretch.
What's the stretch though? So he's not the father of Scotty.
That is my Olmsted random stretch. But on top of the fact that, like, what if Wayne isn't the dad, and what if the dad is
Lars?
Like, what? Because he's a liar.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bad liar. That's the name of his band. Mm-hmm. Like, what if that's the thing, and it's not really his kid, and that's just the real deal? And because we know later, I don't mind saying this, like later, like there's some beef between Lorraine and Dot about money and who gets what. And I just thought, well, that's a power struggle. I can see Lorraine asking for a paternity test before she gives anybody her wealth and dynasty.
Totally. I mean, they were kind of talking about that kind of stuff when they were at the house with Danish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. I like that conspiracy theory. So Lars is Scotty's dad. So
wow, you're just going for it. Such declarative statements on something I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Lars and Dot hooked up. Dot got preggers with Scotty. That's what, and that's why she had to split up with Roy.
I think she escaped Roy and went to a town and was trying to seek companionship and help and something. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it's Roy's kid. I don't know.
All right. Time will tell. Okay, a couple real quick things in the Olmsted house. So can you tell me what Indira wrote on October 30th in her date book? She wrote 10, 11, 19, and then something. That's
the day, I believe. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. I'm happy to like scroll back in my video, but I think that's just the day that bill's due. She's literally doing a whole... Okay. I'm screwed if because she went to Lars and was like, that was the final notice. Like, we got to get that done. The fact that he thinks he's going to be a magical golfer from Scandia, Minnesota, not gonna happen, bruh.
Yeah, so his wife says, hey, why don't you pick up a few shifts at the old Red Apple again? Yeah. Maybe try to help out a little bit. Here's a little story.
Tell me.
Did you know Bob Dylan once lived in Fargo?
I did know that. That was when he was Robert Zimmerman, because he's originally from Iron Country, Hibbing, Minnesota. But yes, he did.
Yes,
there's also a giant mural of him in Fargo now on a building.
Oh, I did not know that. So he lived in Fargo as Robert Zimmerman, as you said, with another guy, and they lived on 7th Street, which is where I lived when I grew up in Fargo. Yeah. And he had a job, Bob Dylan, in Fargo at what is now Babs Coffee House. I believe that's still there, right, Bill?
Which Babs? Babs
the
moved.
Babs on Main?
Yes, Babs is still there on Main.
Yeah, that used to be the Red Apple.
No way.
Yeah. And Bob Dylan worked at the Red Apple.
Did you talk to your mom? How did you figure that one out?
No, I just remember it.
Dang.
From my time in the 50s.
God, you're right. Dylan worked at the Red Apple Cafe at 604 Main Avenue. Fun facts. Mm-hmm. Well, the answers are out there blowing in the wind, folks. Just kidding. Never going to do that again. I'm sorry.
All right. It's getting we're getting towards the end here. We got a lot to talk about still.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Wet Bandits. So we've got the scene where Dot gets kidnapped. I'm sure you noticed this, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what was playing on the TV when Dot was kidnapped?
It was a show called Jason with a terrible logo.
I forgot to mention this because it was just another thing that was playing in the Dot house. It was actually when Wayne came home to find Dot missing.
Oh, okay.
There was the television or radio or something was on. And what was on was Operation Eagle's Nest, starring Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Operation's Eagle's Nest, starring Ronald Reagan, is not a real movie. It's a fake movie that we first heard about in Season 2 of Fargo. It was actually first mentioned in Episode 5 of Season 2, Operation Eagle's Nest, with Ronald Reagan, and then it was later what Peggy in that same season was watching when she was kidnapped.
Oh my God, that's a fantastic egg! Right when she was being held in that like cabin.
Yep.
Did not catch that at all. Man, that's a solid catch, friend.
Yeah, that one slipped by me earlier, so sorry. I had to bring it up now, though.
Yeah.
But yes, back to the Dot house as she's getting kidnapped. Yes, she's watching this show called Jason or something like that. So instead of Marv Merchants and Harry Lime, this pack of Wet Bandits, we've got Ole Munch.
Yep.
And is Pace the other guy?
I never did catch it. He had a name tag on his shirt sewn on, but I didn't catch it.
Okay, I was just looking up the cast, and
there was a D. There was a D or something.
There was an actor that who played Case that looked maybe like that guy, but it's hard to tell, when half his face is burnt off.
Yep.
So great scene, obvious nod to the original movie, very fun. You mentioned earlier.
His name on IMDb, I can't believe I didn't look this up. His name is Donnie.
It is.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
So Pace is a different guy, I guess.
Yeah, but still, I just love that it's Donnie.
As we follow Dot up to her bedroom with the yarn, we notice her bedroom is all wallpapered up like a jungle, which was pretty cool.
Yes.
She did have a brass lion, yes, on her dresser. But great scene, good Fargo universe stuff here. Loved the fire take. Loved that. I mean, I was anticipating, her getting caught in the. It was so reminiscent of the movie. I thought she was going to be in the shower and getting caught up in the shower curtain. But glad they took it a little bit of a different way. Loved the fire with the Aquanet. Do they still make Aquanet? Did they make Aquanet in 2019?
I don't know. The majority of the Aquanet I ever bought was the easiest way to fix charcoal drawings cheap.
Oh, for fixative.
Yeah, like an art class is, you know what I mean? Like,
sure,
if you couldn't afford like the cool fixative, you just buy Aquanet and just slather that shit on there. But yeah, I think it was just such a fun scene overall, and that's why, I mean, like, we're not trying to gloss over the scenes. I'm sure everyone's like, oh, they're huge. But I mean, those scenes, the kidnapping scene, and even the scenes in the gas station where she kind of makes her stand along with North Dakota Deputy Witt, those scenes stand alone. I don't think there's a lot outside of us learning that she knows how to get her way around. I mean, the ice, the what to do with the making things slick or slippery and sticky and whatever. She's using everything to her advantage. That's the big thing that we got out of that you got out of that. I just don't know. Sometimes this show is where we want to be as obvious. I mean, immediately when she walked away from Munch, I was just like, where are you going? Right. And then I thought, oh, they need him to get away. That's the point.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about this character, Ole Munch. He's clearly a unique man. He's got the kilt. He's Scandinavian of some sort.
That haircut.
The haircut is amazing. Did you ever see the movie Witch or The Witch?
I don't think so.
Every scene in that movie is like a classic painting, and this guy it's like he's plucked from that movie.
Really?
I mean, every time I look at him, he looks like a masterpiece. The way they light him, the hair, the facial expressions, the way he composes his body. That split second you see him in Dot's dream, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I could look at that guy for hours.
Oh, really?
Well, calm down,
I'm going to send you some wallpaper in that case. I'm really excited to learn more about Deputy Witt, right?
Deputy Witt Farr.
I'm excited to learn more. We talked in the hot dish about great nod to multiple seasons with using the ice scraper as the tourniquet.
Mm-hmm.
Dot obviously escapes by not really ever telling her name and saying this isn't her first getaway, and just giving us more interesting ideas of like, okay, she's never done this. I am still really torn by like what happened to her that breakfast is so important and Bisquick is such a big deal. It's the most important meal of the day.
Well, most important meal of the day is definitely a movie reference, right? But the Bisquick thing, yeah, totally everywhere. She loves her pancakes because I guess they remind her of her daughter. Maybe. I
also thought it was interesting that she smelled the orange juice. Randomly, just random, super random. Like,
I noticed
she sniffed the orange juice. I was like, did you think the OJ went bad? I don't know. Like, does it smell too tangy and delicious? Maybe not.
That exact thing went through my head, and I remember one time thinking, like, orange juice doesn't go bad, and I remember having bad orange juice.
Like, yeah, you're like, this is...
it can happen.
This is a little too tart, but...
Orange juice can definitely go bad.
We should probably, I think, wrap this up. I mean, I know there's things we're missing. I know there's things we haven't, but we have to start letting this unfold. Let's piece it together. We'll do another breakdown of this season 5, episode 2 coming up next. Anything you want to?
Yeah, and if we missed, I'm sure we missed a bunch of stuff. And if you know we did, then you got to just give us a shout out.
Yeah.
And hit us up. Email it to us. We'll bring it up next time.
We'd love to talk about it. So, all right, Sharpie, let's do another one in a little bit here, and we'll send this out. Hope you guys are enjoying so far. We can't wait to see how the rest of this unfolds. And FX, if you're listening, please don't do 2 large episodes back to back a day or so before a major holiday. think of us lowly, unpaid, do it because we like it podcasters.
They're going to be like, they're going to do it anyway, so we'll do what we want.
Yeah. All right, man. Till next time.
All right. Catch you later.